All right. So today is restorative yoga, focusing again on Pratyahara, this time on the sense of taste. For your centering, I will suggest seated, some sort of seated, whatever that could be comfortable for you, or on the ground in a chair. If that doesn't work, absolutely pick what does. Take a moment or two to feel the body, the physical body, what's talking to you, maybe what needs just a little bit of movement before you bring stillness in. So that as you ask the body to stay still, there isn't going to be over much distraction from tension or soreness, perhaps, that would be stuck and need to get out. And then once you're able to slow it down and bring some stillness, then settle in and notice the parts of the body that are touching the ground. You're touching some sort of support. Feel that support. And then notice the parts of the body that are not on a ground or a support or a chair, but that are lifted up from that foundation. Are you able to get a sense of lightness, like perhaps even the spine kind of floating up from your foundation? And then next, I'd invite you to draw your attention to your mouth, to your tongue, noticing if there's anything that you can taste. Might be very subtle, just a faint flavor left over from perhaps your previous meal or anything that you may have had in your mouth or brushing your teeth. Can you notice? Really focus on what you can taste. In some cases, maybe it is a flavor from a meal, a previous meal, that this is really the first time the mind has become fully aware of that taste. Tend to eat in a very quick, hurried manner and not even necessarily be fully aware of what we are tasting. So let that sit with you for a moment. And does it draw back any other sensations or memories of perhaps how you felt when you were eating, or whatever that flavor is, whatever you were doing? Quality of your mind and your thoughts. For some, maybe it's a sensation of chaos and hurriedness, but also perhaps it's a sensation of satiation and satisfaction, satisfaction of feeling full after being hungry. Or for others, maybe it was not a satisfaction, sensation of something completely different. As we start to draw our attention away from that sense of taste now and focus on a mind anchor. It might be your breath. It might be the color orange, like a warm glow that is floating around you or through you. Or perhaps it is an affirmation, something along the lines of I am enough. Or so, inhaling so, exhaling hum, I am. Whatever can hold your mind now. So you start to withdraw your attention and withdraw your attachment to the sense of taste and to any other emotions or sensations that were associated with that visualization. And instead, settle your mind either on inhaling and exhaling, on an affirmation, or on a visualization to hold your mind steady. And we know that other thoughts are going to come in and try and distract, and just time and again, notice that, let it go, and draw your mind back to your chosen concentration point. If you are using your breath, notice if each inhale can become just a second or two longer. And then the exhales release a bit of tension. We're going to repeat the Shanmukhi mudra. We did this the last class. If you remember how to set it up, you can go ahead and keep your eyes closed if you like. I'm going to draw the elbows up to shoulder height, lengthen the spine. The thumbs go either right at or in front of the ears, or perhaps plugging the ears. The index finger can rest gently on the eyelids or right above on the eyebrows. The middle fingers are going to rest just on the edges of the bridge of the nose. Ring fingers meet at the top lip, right above it, and the pinkies meet at just below the bottom lip. So closing those 6 gates, the ears, the eyes, the mouth, but not closing the nose. We'll keep that open for our breath. And if you want to plug your ears, we're going to take 5 rounds of inhales and exhales. You can listen to your breath if you like. If that bothers you, then don't plug your ears and focus on your mind anchor, starting at your pace for 5 rounds. Taking your time, finishing up at your pace. When you are done, allowing those hands to gently release away from the gates, down to your legs. And then you can lower your chin. If your eyes have been closed, blink the eyes open. And lift the chin. From here, we're just going to slide the feet. If you've been seated in easy cross-legged, we're going to just slide the feet out, bring the bottoms of the feet together, knees out to the side. So this is bound angle pose, Baddha Konasana. Hands can stay on the shins to start with. That might help to remind you to lift that sternum, pull the bottom front ribs down towards the pelvis as you lengthen the spine, crown of the head reaching to the ceiling. So for some folks, you might already start to feel some sensation in the groins. And if that's you, you can hang out right where you are. Otherwise, you can keep that lengthened spine and start to hinge forward from the hips. And you might need to move your arms out of the way for yourself. But when you hit the point where any part of your body, could be low back, hips, groins, knees, anything, is asking you to pause, that you said that you've gone far enough, and just hold it there and breathe. If you notice that you now may have a little bit more space, that the soft tissues have started to loosen a bit, if you'd like, you can come just a bit further, and then we all have the option to round the spine with the head hang heavy if that feels right. Now, from there, make any adjustments you might need. So if you feel like you want some support for those hip joints and put something underneath any gaps for the knees, that's an option. Or if you want to stack any types of props in front of you so that as you lean forward, you can rest the forehead. Adjust it as you need, and then we will settle in and breathe or come back to your anchor. Let's take an inhale. Start to lift the torso up. Walk yourself all the way back up to seated. And then, keeping the legs as they are, we're going to roll onto our backs and come into a reclined Baddha Konasana, with reclined bound angle. If you feel better, if you have something to have for leverage as you roll back, or just come over to your side first, Absolutely make your way onto your back in any way that makes sense for you. Once you have yourself all the way down, then let the tension out of the muscles of the back side of the body. Allow the back side of the body to feel that sensation of being supported on the floor. And then notice if now that you're in this position, if you want to bring the feet closer to the groins or further away, or perhaps leave them where they are. Just, you can explore that and see how it feels in your body. Eventually, finding a position where you can hold and bring stillness back into the body. And return either to your affirmation, your visualization, or your breath for your mind anchor. Taking him in. If the length of the arm is comfortable for you to bring your hands to the outer thighs, one leg at a time, use the hand on the outer thigh to draw the knee up to the ceiling. Once that's settled, then the other hand draws the second leg up. If the hands aren't a comfortable reach to the legs, you can roll over to one side or lift yourself up and grab the thighs. Now, knees up to the ceiling, feet flat on the floor. We're going to want to have access to one of our props, especially if you have a block, a large book, a firm pillow. I'm going to take an inhale to prepare. Your exhale presses the low back down into the mat. And then your next inhale will float the hips up any amount. Just keep the prop handy for now. We're not going to need it. And then hold there in your bridge pose, just for one cycle of breath. Your exhale, one vertebra at a time, drops down until the pelvis lands last and you release the tailbone. Take an inhale. Exhale, press the low back down. Inhale, press into your feet, float the hips up. Notice you can move the hips just a little bit higher than what you did the first time. And then from here, you'll use that height of your hips to draw the prop underneath you. And the props can be at different heights depending on the need for that particular, for your skeleton on this day. It's going to change from day to day and from person to person. Once you have the prop settled, you can rest that bony part, that sacrum pelvis area, the hard bony area towards the bottom of the back, right on the prop, and then rest here and breathe. If you release the hands down to the ground, palms down, and imagine the sternum being able to expand and float up to the ceiling, can help the muscles of the front of the torso to release and get a heart opener along with the back extension. And return to your breath or your affirmation or your visualization. Finishing from here, we will push into the bottoms of our feet, and on an inhale, just lift the hips enough so you can release that prop, move it away from you. And then again, slowly, one vertebra at a time, lower the spine down. Hips, pelvis, and tailbone come down last. Take a beat, kind of windshield wiper the knees side to side. Eventually, letting both knees fall all the way over to the right. And coming over to your right side body, press yourself up and come back up into a seated position. I'm going to extend the leg, both legs long. You're going to keep that left leg lengthened out. Draw the right foot towards the inner part, anywhere along that left leg. If this is bothersome for your knee, trying to bring the foot closer to the ankle or just bring the leg out to the side a little bit more might be helpful. The left toes generally straight up to the ceiling. We'll take an inhale, reach the arms up, bring the gaze lifted. And then as you exhale with the shoulder blades down towards the back waist, start to hinge from the hips again, just like we started with at the beginning. And then pause when you feel anywhere along that posterior chain that there's a part of the body asking you to stop. And then let the hands float down on either side of the leg. Sternum is reaching towards the toes. Think about keeping that cervical spine in line with the rest of the spine. I notice for myself when I'm looking at my toes, I start to lift my chin a bit, keeping that spine lengthened in its axial extension. It may or may not happen on this side, but if you do notice that there's been a softening, like there's just a little bit of extra space that you can move a little bit deeper, go ahead and take that. And then if it feels right in your body, we can all let that head start to come down heavy. And if that's the case for you, see if you can set yourself up or use props in any capacity to support that forehead so that the weight of the head is not just free hanging from those smaller muscles of the cervical spine. All of the sense organs are used to bring messages from the external world into us. And what is true for all of those sense organs, the sense of smell, taste, touch, sight, sound, is that when we bring those messages in, it's literally something that we're consuming. That is something that we tend to be able to associate the most with our sense of taste, that when we're eating, we're consuming something. And when we practice Pratyahara, it helps us to become more self-aware of what it is we're consuming from all of our senses, how it is impacting us mentally, physically, emotionally, energetically, and then become aware of if we want to be impacted in those ways, if it's positive or negative for what we are wanting for our life. And so then we can start to refine what we are allowing in versus what we decide to not consume. And part of that refinement is also being aware of what we're getting attached to. So some of those sensory organs are very much associated, and the consumption is very much associated with perhaps our routine, our habits, things that we're enjoying, media consumption, food consumption, any of that. So we might start to become attached to it. And on the flip side of that, we might be averse to it. And either of those aspects can start to control us rather than us choosing what we're wanting for that time. So keeping that awareness growing and starting to bring discernment to the choices of what those external messages and content and consumptions will be. Taking an inhale, start to walk the torso back up slowly. Give those soft tissues time to respond. And then we'll keep that left leg long, extend the right leg, and then just bring movement, any kind of small movement, anything that feels good. It might even feel good to lean back, come into just a baby back extension after being rounded over. When it's time, when it feels ready for you, you're going to bring stillness to the right leg. We'll just switch sides. Left foot comes in. Shifting so that you can extend that right leg long, toes up to the ceiling, adjusting the left foot where you need it. Taking an inhale, reach the arms up. And then the exhale, hinging from the hips, shoulders out of the ears, shoulder blades down towards the back waist. With a lengthened spine, moving the sternum towards the leg as if it's reaching for the toes. Once you hit that sticking spot, let the hands float down. Rest the arms down and we'll hold right here. Come back to your mind anchor and we'll wait to see if there's a softening on this side. If you notice here that you have that little bit of space that is opened up, go ahead and round the spine down, let the head hang heavy, using those props or your hands to support the head. Take an inhale. Start to pull the head up. Use the hands. Gently walk yourself all the way up. Extend both legs long when you get there at your pace. And shift ankles, feet, legs, knees, hips. Let the blood flow back in that's been restricted. We are from here going to move on to our bellies. Bringing yourself all the way down onto the mat. As we do, if you get to your belly and this just is not comfortable, I'm going to invite you to come to a chair instead, or stay up seated on the floor. And then if you're on the floor, we're going to stack hands like pancakes, rest the forehead down. If you are going to be seated on the floor, just go ahead and stay in that extended leg seated position or in a chair. If you're using your breath as your focal point, this can be a really helpful position to feel the movement of the breath coming into the belly, chest, even the side ribs and the back. Going to go into half bow pose. It is an opener for the front of the thigh and hip area, as well as a bit of a back extension. So the right foot bends at the knee, bottom of the foot up towards the ceiling. The left elbow comes slightly forward from the shoulder and kind of angles out so that you have a support system here to reach the right hand around and get a hold of the front of the shin, the ankle, the toes, or a pant leg perhaps, or a sock, and hold on to that. Once you have it, if you feel like you have space to again move that left elbow out to the side and rest your head down, go ahead and do so. If you are staying up seated on the floor, the movement will be to keep that left leg long, take the right leg back behind you any amount, bending at the knee, perhaps even in kind of a Z shape, or I guess this would be a V shape, and then start to lean back onto your hands. If you're in a chair, you can do a similar movement where you keep the left leg where it is, and then the right foot moves towards the back foot of the chair. If you're on the floor, it can also be helpful to take that isometric movement of the intention, the energy of pulling the right hip down towards the floor. Can sometimes help you to get the sensation of feeling a little bit more of an opening or a stretch along the front of the quadricep and the psoas muscle. Take another inhale. Your exhale. Slowly release any bind that you might have with your hand. Let the leg extend long. If you're seated, you're going to come back with both legs out in front. And then stack your hands up here on your belly. Tuck the toes into the mat, heels up towards the ceiling. And then press the heels away from you. Perhaps even noticing if you can float the knees and the tops of the thighs off the mat as you pull the heels away from you. If you're seated, it might be helpful to take just a half of a forward fold. And then exhale to release all that down. Your right leg stays where it is, the left foot. Bottom of the foot's going to come up to the ceiling as you bend the left knee. If you're on your belly, you're going to bring that right elbow a bit out in front of the shoulder. Create that support so that you can reach the left arm back around, grab ankle, shin, pant leg, sock, whatever for this side, and then lower down. And then you're going to repeat what you did if you're seated in a chair or on the floor for the left side. Slowly, gently releasing the left foot if you've got a bind. Lengthening the left leg long alongside the right leg. If you're seated, come into a bit of a forward fold. If you're on your belly, you're going to tuck both toes again into the mat. Press the heels away from you. Engage the quadricep muscles to the femur bone and float as much of the leg up off the floor as works for you. And exhale and release. Let the feet lie toenail side down on the floor. And then inhale. You're going to slide that one of your arms, whichever one makes most sense for you, over to the opposite side so that you can help yourself roll all the way over and land on your back. Knees are up to the ceiling, feet flat on the floor. I'm going to take a lengthened inhale. As you exhale, both knees fall over to the left. Arms come out into the letter T, out from the shoulders, and the chin comes to the right. So a supine twist. This is also possible to do from a chair or seated on the floor. Whichever position you choose, settle in, return to your focal point. The inhale to bring the chin back to center. Keeping the arms where they are and keeping the left leg where it is. We're just going to draw that right leg, bringing the foot back to the floor if it's not already there. And then extend the right leg long. The left foot is going to draw in anywhere along the inside of the right leg. So now we're coming into that similar position that we did seated, but on our back now. So this is fallen tree. And breathe here. If you're following your breath, you're going to take an inhale to prepare. And then it'll be the exhale that slides the left leg long, both legs extended. Your inhale will draw the right leg into so that the foot lands along anywhere alongside the inner leg of the left side. Right knee is down, out to the floor, left leg long, fallen tree on this side. Leaving the right leg where it is. Our inhale will draw that left foot towards the seat so that the foot can land on the floor, left knee up to the ceiling. And then your exhale will allow that left knee to fall over to the right, coming into supine twist with the knees to the right, chin to the left. And then back to your mind anchor. Take an inhale to draw everything back to center. Let the knees float up. And then your exhale, lengthen the legs long, coming into your version of a final rest. That if lying flat on your back is not comfortable today for you, you have the option of coming over to a side body or rolling all the way over onto your belly, or finding any comfortable seated pose where you can completely rest. Withdraw your mind's attention from anything that could be distracting you from any of your senses. Come back to your focal point and allow the body to rest and integrate what you just did. We'll slowly and kindly start to reawaken the physical body by just making some small movements with the fingers and the toes. Possibly deepening the breath or lengthening the inhale and extending the exhale. Letting that movement move into wrists and ankles, elbows and knees, hips and shoulders. Option to take a long full body stretch if that feels good. And then eventually making your way up to seated. Hands can be wherever they're comfortable for you. Either resting your gaze on the floor in front of you or closing your eyes if you're comfortable. Take an inhale. On the exhale, lower the chin towards the chest. And remember some gratitude for the ancients and the culture that have shared this practice with us. And perhaps a moment of gratitude for anything else in your life that you want to Remember to be thankful for as you move into the rest of your day. Om Shanti, peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.